The US is the market for small businesses. There's so many small businesses opening up. I don't know another country in the world that facilitates small business ownership as much as the US in terms of opening up, financing.
I've had the pleasure of living in almost 20 different countries, from winters in Finland to being born in Middle East. So I've seen the heat, I've seen the cold. I've lived in humid Singapore for the last 20 years. But there is no place like United States for entrepreneurs, for dreamers who want to grow their businesses and build it to a global scale out there. And thank you for providing me that support using Visa Franchisee to be able to get the visa access to do so.
Hey, you have Patrick Fendoro here, founding partner at Visa Franchise. Excited to have on today our client Nitin Mahajan, who is the founder and CEO of Quick Ads. Nitin, thanks for joining us today.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me over.
So we first got in contact probably a little over a year ago, and I've seen firsthand how your business has evolved. And I know when we were working on the business plan, I was personally, reviewing it with my team member. I'm like, this is pretty cool, like what they're going after. And we started working with you and leveraging your services at Visa Franchise. So for those that aren't familiar with Quick Ads, could you just tell a little bit about what you and your team are working on?
Sure. Quick Ads is an AI based marketing solution through which anyone and everyone can make their own ads better, faster, cheaper. So, companies like Visa Franchisee or people who are watching this, you don't need to spend $10,000 and be stuck with a marketing agency. You can try and do it yourself or contact us and we'll do it for 10 times cheaper, faster than anybody else out there. We use proprietary technologies like AI and computer vision models to make it better, faster for everyone.
And before I met you, I mean, we ads were never like our primary marketing channel in terms of how we were acquiring clients and bringing clients on. But I spent years like trying to crack the nut, and sometimes it would make sense financially, other times not. But I liked your guys' approach where it was really systematic and understanding any blockers and being agile to make shifts to make sure that the return on investment was there.
Our pleasure, and glad that it worked out for you. And we want to do it for 10,000 other small businesses out there. Let's make them successful.
Definitely. There's a big market. I mean, the US is the market for small businesses. There's so many small businesses opening up. I don't know another country in the world that facilitates small business ownership as much as the US in terms of opening up, financing, support. And the government's doing it for good reason. It creates a lot of US jobs and is a big driver of the US economy. And so many of the top companies in the Fortune 500 started as small businesses within the last 50 years. So it's kind of betting US making strategic bets on who could be, the next big company, the next big Google, the next big Apple, that are all relatively recent companies. They're not multi-generational family companies like you see in a lot of the developed world or in Europe. So I'm sure you're going to have, one of these clients sooner or later where you look back 10 years and like, oh, that's sweet, we helped them get from 500K up to 5 million, leveraging the ads, and then they were on their way.
That's exciting and that's energizing because SMBs are the main street. They are the main economy. They are 60 to 70% of GDP. But funny enough, 95% of them are not able to make their ads run. So you are not the only one. You are among the 95% people who cannot make their
Okay.
ads in growth
So I don't
market.
feel too bad about not cracking that nut. And then Nitin, tell me about your background too. You have a pretty cool background, and this isn't your first move in terms of countries and setting up your family and yourself professionally. So maybe you could talk a little bit about yourself and then why you ended up creating Quick Ads.
Sure. If Nitin as a person is hacker at heart, I used to play table tennis for daily, and then I've been an engineer, like the lousy one, and then been on the dark side of strategy consulting for the last 10, 12 years, where I worked with a lot of large companies trying to improve their marketing journeys, trying to understand their customer transformation. And I realized that as much as it's exciting, it is even better to use technologies like AI and generative AI in particular to completely change the game for small businesses, for the main street. And that's what I am passionate about at this point, to use all my 25 years of knowledge in terms of technology, in terms of building businesses, in terms of building service delivery organizations, to be able to create the next scent of unicorns, which are truly global in nature. And as you mentioned, I've had the pleasure of living in almost 20 different countries, from winters in Finland to being born in Middle East. So I've seen the heat, I've seen the cold. I've lived in humid Singapore for the last 20 years and proudly Singaporean. And but there is no place like United States for entrepreneurs, for dreamers who want to grow their businesses and build it to a global scale out there. And thank you for providing me that support using Visa Franchisee to be able to get the visa access to do so.
And tell me, how did you find out about the E2 visa? Why the E2 visa? And you're lucky where you are eligible for a lot of different categories. You get it on the O1 visa, the L1 visa, E2 because you have a Singaporean passport. Why the E2 visa?
That's true, actually. So I think first of all, you helped me also make that choice in saying you have E2 and you have O1 option, and then later on we can do EB1 or EB5, etc. Even now, it was a process of elimination in a way, but it was also a right fit because E2 is meant for entrepreneurs. It is meant for people who are trying to build their own small businesses. Now, traditionally, it might be some people acquiring some businesses or coming in on L1 from multinational transfers. In my case, it was just a natural fit that it is my business. I'm already running it in Singapore and I want to bring it to US. Now, having said that, as we will talk about it, it was not as easy as it seems to justify that for E2 visa. But I encourage everyone who's running a business in their own country and want to bring it to US. E2 is a very, very exciting way to do it. The investment required is not a lot. It gives your spouse and the kids the flexibility to not only live but also work and study in United States without any extra work authorization. And depending on the country you are from, it can be anything from 2 to 5 years renewal. So in a way, it gives you a good springboard to get started and continue with the business journey that you have been doing or plan to do in the United States.
And Nitin, if you could talk a little bit about your first experience with E2 and then coming to us and kind of lessons learned and how we were able to help you.
Sure.
And you can feel free to open up and the good and
I
bad
will
with
take the
working
names,
with
but
us.
happy to because it's important. As easy as it sounds, that E2 visa has a apparently 90%, 95% success rate. I was among the unlucky ones who did not get it through the first time. It was a huge blow for someone who has been coming to the United States for almost last 20 years, countless times, 10 different visas. And in fact, Singaporean passport allows you visa-free travel. But then when I got denied at the consulate, it was a huge blow. But in hindsight, that's very, very important. And I really encourage everyone to go through with the right lawyer and the right process. Because every visa is a bureaucratic process and a certain sort of checklist and expectations, which we as a layman may misinterpret or take it too loosely. Or in my case, my previous lawyer was perhaps not the most experienced in E2. So please do go with someone who's experienced on E2. In hindsight, there are a couple of things you want to make sure. An experienced E2 lawyer will make sure they draft your business case and the proofs of investment very correct, very accurately. For example, an investment of let's say 100,000, 200,000, it is not just a bank transfer because that's not at risk. It has to be used, it has to be deployed. Even small things like those, which we all had the intentions to do so, but we were not guided or coached correctly to do so. But all's well that ends well. So definitely use the right E2 experienced lawyer who has definitely done cases. And in fact, people like Visa Franchise who are so confident about the process and they offer you 95% assurance and a money back guarantee,
We'll
which I
give you a
must say
money
was
back
a huge.
guarantee. I said, hey, if you don't get it this time, we can always try again.
Exactly.
But we're happy to give you back our fee, and that includes the attorney fee that you paid
That was
us.
very convincing, I must say. A person who believes in his skill set and is ready to say, I'll guarantee and otherwise money back guarantee for my services shows the professionalism. So it's very important that you get the right lawyer with the right credentials who has done it ideally in your embassy or consulate, like in my case, Singapore embassy or consulate. So he's familiar with the nuances. But more importantly, make sure that the case is succinct, but also watertight in terms of questions that the visa officer is looking for. It is not a question of trying to deceive the system. It's a question of answering the right questions for the system so that it makes it easier for the visa officer to understand the case.
And yeah, I mean, we're a little differentiated where like Visa Franchise itself is not a law firm, but I've heard this a few times. We act more as like the general contractor where we're bringing in all the parties. Most of them are internal resources now, former consulate staffers, business plan writer, and then we have a network of immigration attorneys. So say last year about 200 clients, about 20 roughly different immigration attorneys that we had filings with. So we know who has experience with Singapore. We know who has capacity or should have capacity for filings, and we're able to cut the flow off to the attorney if we start noticing there's delays, and we're going to abruptly stop referring future clients until they remedy those delays. Where without that I have friends that 5 years back, before we were started offering this comprehensive service, I would refer them out to an attorney, and it'd be like 9 months to get an E2. Well, that's just too long, especially if you're looking to go to market, go get aggressive, move the family, in your case to Texas. You can't wait 9 months.
Yeah,
It should be 3 to 6 months. Get the E2 visa, get your kids in school in July and August, and get on your way here.
absolutely. No, your support and professionalism was really, really remarkable.
And then Nitin, one thing that's important. We've helped quite a few clients like yourself in terms of valuing the IP, making that account as part of the investment. And on paper, it could be 100% of the E2 visa investment, but we've seen that consulate officers don't love when it's 100%. And I mean, we're pretty comfortable with a third of the investment, so say 40K, or 100K, 150K of IP, but still spending, whether it's on ads, equipment, those trips to the US, they're 60, 70K. So could you just break down how you spent the substantial investment to show that your business, you're a serious businessman, your Quick Ads is a serious business expanding into the US market?
Sure. Again, every business will be different, but in our case, it was already an up and running business. We had clients in United States,
Yeah.
not just people who buy online, but also people who were enterprise clients and who we serve directly with a human in the loop. So we had revenue incoming. So we had to just make sure that we document the track record of clients and their names, but also from a cost perspective, which again, from a running business, you will have your usual costs of licensing costs, cost of goods sold, office costs, marketing costs. The visa franchisee and their lawyers really helped us systematically document all of that, which was all there, but was just not documented the first time properly, to make sure that it shows that it's a legitimate, already expensed out 100K, 200K, which has been used for actually running the business out there, including paying people salary, employing. We also employed a W-2 and a 1099 for the right reasons to grow the business, but helping us facilitate all of that. Visa franchisee helped us do that. The specific question, if you were asking on out of the total investment that we showed, roughly one third or half, if I remember it right, was the intellectual property. But intellectual property was valued again by two different ways. One is revenue multiple, which is the more conservative way of saying, based on other companies out there, even if you take a very low multiple of 3 times of revenue multiple for SaaS companies, which is very low, but still take it conservatively, based on the history of the last 12 months, this is what the company is already worth. Or the cost which has gone in terms of building the IP, the actual people cost that has gone. Both the techniques were used, and they were very convincing for the visa officer. I must say that the IP has been valued with logic for both cost spent or the revenue generated, and thus the enterprise value of it. But as you rightly said, that was only one third or half of the total investment that we showed. Rest of it was actual OPEX which has happened, which is people salary, marketing costs, office cost, administrative expenses, etc., out there. And again, showing them every month, every day, every week. There's a literally 50 pages of, I still remember the P&L and all the bank statements that we printed, gave visa officer, and they explicitly asked that question: show me what are you spending on? What are your big ticket items? What are your small ticket items? For them to feel like it is not just 100K put in and you're trying to just make the case work, but as at least was relevant in our case. And it was very different, but it was proven that it is a running business for the last 2 years, and that's why the expenses are relevant.
We started working together in July, I believe, last year, 2024. Could you remind me of the process working with us up till having the interview and getting the visa issued? How
Sure,
many months
sure.
that looked like?
So we got back in touch in July, and immediately and within 24 hours, it was a very simple contract. Once we had the commercial handshake, the first major step was to get in touch with the attorney that you appointed who was relevant. She reviewed the materials and gave us a very clear, crisp advice on, in the next 2 weeks, I need this, in a very structured documentation. Using that, and within 2 weeks, we were able to compile most of it. She reformatted our business case or rewrote our business case and the supporting documents over the next 1.5 months. And there was a lot of back and forth. So please, of course, the timeline depends on how responsive you are. And hopefully, we were able to provide all the materials, review and refine the new business case, the justification documents. And don't forget, there's almost 100 different documents to collect, from your birth certificate, your company registration, uh, So budget time for all of that, but 1.5 months to do that. So I would say in 2 months we were able to file it into the Singapore embassy. But unfortunately, there was a very surprising but a huge backlog at the Singapore embassy, and then I was
For a
traveling.
while, I think it was like a month. Probably the first time it took you like what, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, and then it
Yeah,
shot way back, right?
exactly. This time it was like 3, 4 months out. There was no appointment available, which was very strange. The only appointment was available in November. So we got in touch in June, July. We filed, we were ready in early September. We sent it to the Singapore embassy, but the appointments were not available till October, November. And Singapore embassy was also going through an IT transformation of its own, perfect timing. But by November, we were able to get the appointment, and we booked it in December, got the interview done in January, and flew out in February. So all in all, even with all the delays, 6 months, but that 6 months, to be fair, included the delay on the Singapore consulate interview appointment times, IT portal change on the embassy side. But overall, I'll say within 3 months, most people should be able to get their appointments.
How would you compare your first time interview with like less documentation and not as a robust business plan compared to the second interview you had in Singapore?
I was very nervous. I've never been denied a
I
visa, and
remember
I
that.
don't want to go. I wish not that not
Yeah.
to happen to anybody out there. Uh, I think the visa officer was obviously very prepared, and he was very direct in his questions. He did not, in my case at least, look into the previous denial. He was very focused on specific questions. What does the company do? How do you make money? What type of clients do you have? Why do you need to go to United States? Are you employing people out there? What's your really real business case? And I felt in all of them, they were trying to very certainly guess, do you really know your business? Or are you just making up numbers? Especially in my case, I am running a business, so I should know about AI. They were asking me questions on what does Getty Image do? Why do you need this? Sometimes they would even try and trick you. I thought they were tricking or asking the same question in three different ways to see if you answer it differently. Like one of our employee names, he took it differently, and I had to point him out immediately. No, no, he's not Roberto, he's Michael. So I don't know if they were conscious, but to be fair, they were just trying to understand: do you know your business? How is that working out? Why do you need to be in the United States for that? If you're going to be in the United States, are you going to contribute to the US economy? And to be fair, as long as your answers are well thought through and genuine, it should be okay.
We've had a few clients comment that it felt like being on Shark Tank, or you like we're essentially pitching to an investor, and it's like this consulate officer is like the gatekeeper for you accessing the U.S. market, and almost like the U.S. government investing in your business.
Can't blame them. I mean, they have a role to play, but it's a hit and miss, right? You answer something wrong, and it can backfire.
How did you decide on Dallas, Texas? I mean, there's a lot of different cities and states in the U.S. Why Dallas versus some other places?
Well, you're trying to nudge me again and again to Miami, which is still an option. But no, honestly, Dallas is central to the whole North American region that we are trying to work with. So for us, it's really important to fly and meet a lot of real main economy businesses. So Dallas is a good hub for that. It's an upcoming top 10 city now with a good international connectivity and airport, major hub for American Airlines. So both from a logistics and more importantly from a client connectivity point of view, we felt it was the right choice. We also have family, extended family out there, so it made it even more easier
Nice.
to make that choice. And I encourage everybody to explore Dallas.
And it seems like also when you weigh like the public schools, there's like really good public schools. It's pretty affordable compared to Miami. Miami's gotten super expensive. It's almost, people are complaining about Southern California, and South Florida is kind of the same thing now.
Yes, yes. I mean,
But
that's a perception that Texas, with lower no state income taxes, is much more affordable. But things have run up here also, but still not as expensive as Bay Area. But it's run up a lot. But the schools are amazing. I must say that from
oh
whatever
yeah,
little I've seen so far, and the sense of community, the sports that we were looking for to get our kids integrated into that fabric, it's been a super interesting journey so far.
you've leveraged your professional background, living across all these different countries with a large staff too in India, some really talented individuals that you've been able to hire and cultivate and mentor. How do you manage with the time zone change and managing your team, but also, speaking to key clients? How do you deal with that?
I mean, lots of eye bags and dark shadows, but I
Hmm.
mean, there's no secret to it except for yes, you have to cover a little bit different time zone. So again, Dallas being in the middle of West and Eastern time zone helps us find common client overlap. In my case, I have a very simple rule that mornings are meant to speak to the clients, the first half, And the second half, I try and overlap with the Asian time zone, so especially in the evenings, so that I'm able to
Okay.
cover both Asian and US time zone. But is it a 6 hour day? No. Is it a 12-hour day? And do I feel it? No. It is fun, enjoying building your own business, giving it all I have. So try and straddle it around that.
And I mean, the US is like, it's the top league, for business. So I think a lot of people that we've had prior clients, less now, but years back coming from different countries, Turkey, Brazil, where they were kind of the head, they were the top in their market. But the U.S. is really much, much more competitive than some of these markets, especially in the developing world or some of these smaller European countries where you've got to bring your A game, and there's a lot of really hungry people, whether they're Americans that were born here, first generation, or fellow immigrants that are looking to really grow something big.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know about A game or elite game, but I've definitely felt, and I've been serving clients in the United States for 20 years now. But as long as you really know your stuff and you talk in a way which is non-threatening and adds value, the doors open up. It is less. There is always some relationship depending on what industry you are in, but ultimately you have to deliver value. It cannot be just pure relationships. So your content and the product has to speak for itself.
Nitin, any parting advice for those entrepreneurs that are looking to enter the US market, potentially moving on the E-2 visa, but more just, it could be any facet in terms of making the move to the US as an entrepreneur coming from overseas?
First of all, I wish a lot of people to definitely explore United States as a market. Uh, E2 is not a most well advertised visa, which is good in some way. And there's a lot of uncertainty in the market as we speak in early 2025 on EB5, on EB1, also to an extent, and just generally immigration rules. But do explore E2. Do explore if you can buy a business or continue your business as it might be applicable for you. And the fact that your spouse can work on that work on as an E2 dependent opens a lot more flexibility compared to many other visa types. Doesn't mean that it's for everyone. Your nationality has to be applicable for it. And you have to feel justified that you're going to be running the business. But it definitely does give you the right guardrails to at least start a business once in your lifetime in the biggest market out there, in the most upside, uncapped opportunity that you could create for you and your family out there.
And then, particularly for online business owners, because we've had more and more clients that don't have a brick and mortar business, they're providing services online like yourself, or they're selling a physical product. Any advice for them in terms of documenting and what when it makes sense to start the E2 visa process? After you've invested such amount, what you've invested in, or what revenue, when it makes sense to start applying for the E2?
Great question. And everybody will be unique in their own journey and when and how they want to jump into it. But I would encourage you to at least wait for a year or 2 years for three reasons. Number one, you will have a track record of investments and revenue, which makes your own business case to yourself and to the consulate more easier to justify. But number two, honestly, for you to feel comfortable that this is a business you want to do for the next 5 years and you've seeded it and now you want to grow in the US market, which was in our case, the situation that we had built the product, was beginning to have customers, and we needed to be closer to the customers, more intimately understand their needs and the cultural context. So for us, it was the right timing after 1.5 years to be able to make that leap of faith into a bigger go-to-market journey in the United States.
That's well said. And, we've had a lot of online business owners where they're earlier stage than you. They haven't really hit product market fit. And depending on the spouse's situation, they could invest in a small business, a franchise, and, we can help them source and analyze the franchise investment while they scale up and really try to get product market fit, where that online service or product based business might not be prime for being the anchor for the E2 visa for their family. It might be better to have a franchise business in the spouse's name.
Exactly, exactly. There is more than one ways to roam. There's more than one ways to go towards E2 or United States, but also explore EB1 or O1 or EB5 if it's relevant in your case. But yeah, don't rush into it. Get your case right. Don't get trapped into assuming that it's 90%, so everybody will go through. Make sure you have the right support. Make sure you have the right lawyer. And you also do your homework in terms of finding the right justification documents to be able to explain the business case.
Well, Nitin, thanks so much for the time for your time and sharing your experience working with Visa franchise. And I wish you all the best of luck and from my team as you conquer the US market.
Same here, and we'll do it together. And if I can help anybody of
Good.
any of your customers or few audience, please do feel free to reach out to me at nitin@quickcats.ai.
Perfect. We'll be sure to have a link to your website so everyone can check it out. It's in multilingual. I think you have it in three languages last time I saw. We
Spanish.
have a lot of clients coming from Latin America, even French Canadians, French. So you can check out their website in different languages and see what Quick Ads is all about.
Thank you, Pat. Thanks to Visa Franchisee team for supporting us in our journey in every way possible.
Thanks, Nitin.
Take care, man.